And joining me on the news at 10 is Senator Femi Okurumo, the Chairman, Presidential Advisory Committee, and also a delegate to the 2014 confab. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on the news at 10. A number of recommendations came from the 2014 confab. This administration, however, doesn't consider it as a priority. What do you make of the stance of the government?
Well, the stand of the government is consistent with the positions they had taken even while the conference was going on. The APC as a party was opposed to the conference. As you know, Tinubu, who is the APC leader, was clearly and vigorously opposed to the conference. Of course, it is no secret that the Northerners, especially the Fulani North, have always been opposed to the conference, and they were vigorously opposed to it. And the North as a whole generally follows the lead of the Fulanis, so the North was opposed to the conference. So since the APC got to power, it is not a surprise that they have been reluctant to even look at the recommendations of the conference. What Buhari said was that he had consigned the recommendations to the archives, meaning that he would not even look at them. This, of course, is very shocking, particularly given the kind of government he has been running, which has heightened the demands now for the implementation of the conference.
So is the non-implementation of those recommendations the result of the kind of agitations that we're seeing today?
Of course, there are two things responsible for the kinds of agitations we are seeing today. The first is that the reasons why the conference were held in the first place was to reduce tension in the country, reduce the feeling of marginalization of sections of the country, to give everybody a sense of belonging.
So has the tension reduced
to Nigeria? But since Buhari got to power, this tension has in fact increased. Feelings of marginalization have increased. Feelings of a sense of not belonging have increased. Feelings that some sections of the country are the rulers and some other sections are the conquered people, these feelings have increased. So this has given rise to greater pressure on the government to implement the recommendations, because these were all the problems that the conference were designed to solve. If all the recommendations are implemented, all these feelings of inequity and injustice will be reduced.
But
there will be less tension.
My apologies. Are there any options available to the government rather than going the way of the 2014 confab?
There's no option. There are only two options: to reduce tension by implementing the recommendations of the 2014 confab, or to begin to witness more demands for separation, demands for people going their own separate ways.
But is restructuring the way forward for this country?
Of course, the restructuring is the only way forward. If we have restructuring and true federalism, we can keep the country together. Because then everybody will have a sense of belonging. We will all feel like Nigerians. We will all feel equal Nigerians. And there will be no sense of oppressors and victims. So, but if we don't have restructuring, we cannot continue to run Nigeria the way it is now. As I have said, the way Nigeria is being run now is that a section of Nigeria believe that they are anointed rulers, and the section that is being treated as if they are conquered people. Nobody wants to be treated like a conquered people. So we all want to feel like Nigerians with equal privileges, equal opportunities, and so on.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
What guarantees are there if we go the way of restructuring that everybody will be happy?
Because every section of the country will be more or less in charge of its own affairs, will manage its own affairs the way is best for its people, will control its own resources, will control law and order within its territory, will be able to, if I have its own police, and in sections of the country where these existing states want to march, they will be free to march if they want to, subject to referendum. So all this will give every section of the country feelings that they can actually manage their own affairs. They will be more or less autonomous. They will be less dependent on going to Abuja, and they will be less dependent on the autocracy from Abuja that tends to more or less hold everybody by the jugular and control everybody's lives.
Okay, in closing this interview, the Senate has said to submit the recommendations of the 2014 confab to us. What do you think is going to come out of that statement?
Well, if they have genuine intentions I think it's a good first step. But I doubt their intentions. Their intentions may be just to douse the agitation for the implementation while in fact doing nothing. So that instead of the recommendations being buried in the archives, it could now be buried in the shelves of the senators. Because the National Assembly itself, as you know the way the National Assembly is constituted, majority of them are northerners. Majority of them come from areas where they don't want a change from the status quo. So majority of them do not want this restructuring. So by asking for the report, they may just want to douse tension, but just go and sit on the report. So that's why I say, but if their intentions are genuine, if they really want to look at the recommendations and implement them, then it's a good first step. Senator
Femi Okoromo, the Chairman, Presidential Advisory Committee on National Conference 2014, and indeed a member of a delegate to the 2014 Conference. I want to thank you so much indeed for talking to us on the News at 10.
You're welcome.